What is up, gentlemen? So, today we're going to talk about how to attract women when you are older and inexperienced. Like, I'm talking guys that have never slept with a woman. I'm talking with guys with few sexual partners, probably no relationship. If you're a guy who's older, getting towards your late 20s, your 30s, your 40s, even 50s, okay? Being an inexperienced guy has a lot of challenges that a lot of people don't talk about, and I've worked with tons. So what we're going to do in this is we're going to talk about the steps if you are an older and experienced guy. Is exactly what we're going to talk about to be successful. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here is what we're going to cover. So I alluded to it a little bit, but the first things before we get into the steps is we're going to talk about why it's harder for inexperienced men. Okay. A lot of people are just going to tell you to just be yourself or just do it, but there are some challenges that inexperienced men go for, that inexperienced men deal with that are not like other things, right? So I'm going to talk about my experience helping inexperienced men. I'm going to talk about examples of those who have succeeded. I've coached a lot of guys. The number one thing that holds back inexperienced guys, and then we're going to talk about the step-by-step guide for meeting women as an inexperienced and older man to start meeting and attracting women. Okay, so if you're a guy who's in this position, this is going to be a perfect video for you. This is not a video that's going to have a lot of flashy things going on. There is going to be just straight information for you. Okay, so stay to the end. If you have a short attention span and you like TikTok videos and you want this to be super quick, this is not the video for you. This is for people that are actually serious about changing their lives. If you're sick and tired of being that older guy who's inexperienced, not getting success with the women that you want, then this video is absolutely for you. Okay, cool. So let's talk about why it's harder for inexperienced men. Okay, women are not attracted to men that are inexperienced. A lot of people don't talk about this. If you look at the strict data, most partners, sorry, most people, both men and women, prefer their partner to have a lower body count. But typically for men, they prefer a woman who has a really low body count. So sometimes they might even prefer a virgin. But with women, they don't actually prefer virgins. Okay. So they prefer the body count, but only until it's around like five or something like that. There are many different studies on this. There's different numbers out there. But most women don't want a guy whose number is less than five. Okay. And as you get older and older, the judgment for having a low body count actually increases. Now, this is not to say that you are a bad person for having a low body count at an older age. There are actually some great benefits to it. But the perception by women in general is not going to be a positive one. Not for everyone, but for a lot of women. And I have a lot of female friends who I've talked to about this when they say that I have some women who genuinely say that they don't care about a guy's experience. But most often, I will find women, they will admit that they are not into a guy who is inexperienced with women. And I did a video on this where I talked about it, but in this one, it's mostly because what they say to me is I don't want to have to teach him. Like I don't have to teach him how to like take me out or how to have sex or how to do any of that sort of stuff. That's what they say. The real reason though is if no one else wanted to be with him, why should I? We know that pre-selection is a very important factor for how women see men as attractive, right? If a woman knows that she is the best that you could possibly get, then her attraction for you will probably lessen, or at least you're going to lose a lot of power in the relationship. But if you're a guy who has a lot of options or has perceived as a lot of options with women who are at her level, so this is a combination of her beauty, intelligence, and all the characteristics that people value in a mate, she knows that you can get someone who's as good as her, then she's much more likely to desire you because you're seen as a desirable person yourself, right? So if no one else wanted to be with him, why should I? And as you get older, like I said, the judgment can start to worsen as time goes on. So this is actually not the worst judgment. The worst judgment, though, comes from you. Okay. So typically I find that yes, women do like they do judge men a little harshly for being inexperienced. There are plenty of women that are more understanding to it, but I'd say on the majority side of that, they're not super favorable. And I think a lot of men know this. And they know this because a lot of men are a little nervous to tell people. They don't want other people to know about it. They kind of keep it to themselves. And a lot of it use it as an excuse to not take action. So, as an inexperienced guy, the barrier to entry or the barrier for action becomes higher and higher because you start to judge yourself more and more. You begin to think less of yourself. Your effectiveness as a man is frequently judged by how you are perceived by women. So a lot of men, if they haven't had a lot of success with women, the older they get, the more they can get bitter, the more they can kind of drift into an area where they start being negative or having negative opinions of women, negative opinions of themselves, most of all. I find the hatred towards themselves to be the strongest, right? And this lack of confidence makes you even less attractive to women. So if you're a guy who hasn't had a lot of success, you're judging yourself for your lack of success. That lack of confidence is actually the biggest thing that's pushing women away. If you were just a guy who was inexperienced, but you were super confident, yes, there are women who may judge you for it, but you could still be insanely great with women. And I know this because I've had guys who have come to me and who have gained that confidence and who have been able to do incredibly well. Okay. But as you get older, these beliefs tend to harden, right? So it becomes harder and harder to change who you are the older you get. But it is not impossible. And I'll give you some examples, right? So I've personally coached hundreds of men who came to me with little to no experience at different ages. And I'm going to tell you what each of these guys did and how you can do it too. So I was at one point a guy who lacked experience myself. I judged myself very harshly. I remember I actually was made fun of it for in the past as well too. And being clueless with women, no one gives you a handbook and is like, "Hey, here's what you do." Everybody like gives you different pieces of advice. A lot of women don't want you to change, so they'll give you bad advice. A lot of men will be like, "Oh, just do this, do what I do, and it works," and they have no idea what makes them successful, or they're not willing to admit it. And so they end up giving you bad advice too. So getting out of this is not only possible, but in my opinion, necessary to live a happy and healthy life. I believe that if you want to be happy in this life, you need, as a man, you need to feel desirable to the opposite sex. And I think in some way a lot of people know that. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be here. You see, as a human being, as a living thing, there are two things that we try and do in life. The first thing that we try and do is we try and stay alive. The second thing that we try and do is make sure that we reproduce. And if we feel like we are unworthy of reproducing, then that is a huge hit to our essence as a living being. And it really used to bug me, right? I believe that I was someone who, wasn't worthy of that. And when you hate yourself that much, it gets you into an area that could be quite dangerous sometimes. And so that's why I take what I do so seriously, because this is something that is very, very important. And the media, your friends, your parents, whoever, they don't understand that. Society in general doesn't take this that seriously, and this is a big thing that a lot of men are lacking. And the numbers are growing, and that's why I have a business to do this, is to help guys get there. So it starts by asking yourself the question, is it possible? So if you're here right now and you're a guy who is thinking, you know, he's right. He's right about all of these things, and you're getting even more down on yourself. There's a reason why I start with this because I want you to ask yourself right now if you're feeling down, is it possible for you to be successful? Is it possible for you to get a life where it is filled with love, with a beautiful woman, with a woman who you are excited about? Is a family in your future? Is success with women? Is a great dating life? Whatever it is that you're looking for, is it possible to happen? And for most of you, the answer to that question should be yes. In fact, everybody on this, if you're watching this, if you're a guy and you're inexperienced, the answer should be yes. And we're going to see why. Okay? So, here, those are some of the guys that I've coached in the past. So, let's talk about one of my clients. This is one of my favorite clients. His name was Otis. Okay? His main challenges. Okay, when he came to me, he had horrible levels of anxiety around attractive women. He grew up in a traditional household. He had no sexual or relationship experience with women. He wanted to experience casual encounters and then get a girlfriend. This is what happened when he first came to me. Okay. Now, the process was slow with him. Obviously, he had a little bit of trouble getting into the groove of stuff. Just going out there and talking to people was new. and he was in his late 20s. So obviously there was a lot of judgment. Being raised in a household where he wasn't like encouraged to do any of this sort of stuff, he was someone who was like kind of discouraged from it. And so when he got older and he decided that this is what he wanted to do, there was no book for it. And he even had some shame around it. Even had some shame with wanting to do this. Guys, if you're experiencing this, there's nothing wrong with you wanting this in your own life. I understand there may be some cultural conflicts, but trust me, if you want to have a good wife, if you want to be happy later on, you owe it to yourself to get this handled before you get her. Because if it's not handled, then when you get her, it will still feel unfulfilled. Okay. And as you can see right here, this is when he lost his, this is when he broke his 27-year long dry spell. And then this is when he was in the first relationship of his life. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, this was a great text that I got. I've gotten plenty of these, but this one in particular. Um, so the result at the end, he had sexual experiences with different women. He got into a long-term relationship. He had a newfound understanding of women and attraction. He undid a lot of traditional programming from childhood. So once you learn this, I don't know if any of you guys feel bitter or if you feel, angry towards women. It's natural to feel that way, especially when you haven't had success with them. So don't think that you're wrong for thinking that, okay? But it is not going to help you. What is going to help you is understanding actually how women work. You will be able to overcome a lot of these insecurities, a lot of this anger by understanding. Okay. Typically, when people are angry at things, when it comes to politics, when it comes to religion, when it comes to another person, a lot of it is lack of understanding, right? If you understand the person, you understand where they're coming from, a lot of times the anger dissipates. And not only that, you become much more confident with that person if you know exactly what's going to happen and how it happens. And typically, I find guys that hear this and they're like, well, I already understand women. I know exactly why they do the things they do. And they give this really, really nasty explanation for why they do the things they do. And I'm like, that's crazy. And then I give them an alternate explanation that is exactly true, but it's another side of the truth, right? So you can describe things in a positive way where everyone's out to get you, or you can describe things in a way that how living beings are, where they're just trying to do the best thing for themselves. And at the end of the day, most people are good people, and women are people. And so, like, I noticed that with a lot of times when guys get more successful, they start seeing women completely differently, and they start seeing them as much better human beings. All right, here's Ron. This is an example that I've given before as well too. Ron was 35 when he came to me. His main challenges were he had never been on a real date before. He had no sexual experience. He was living in a trailer with his grandmother in a small town. He had paid for another coaching program before mine. I say various coaching programs before. I think he might have taken another course, but he definitely did another coaching program with a woman. And this woman gave him bad advice, right? But he was able to get on one date with that coach. So after 14 weeks of coaching with me, though, he had dates with half a dozen women. He had his first sexual experience in an absolute smoke show. You can see it here. That's the girl to the right. We blurred out her eyes for confidentiality, of course. Um, and he yeah he dated her consistently for a while. I don't think they ever became boyfriend and girlfriend, but he experienced abundance for the first time. Not bad for a guy who was in a position that most people would have thought there's no way he's getting success. Okay, at that age with that living situation, absolutely no way. The guy crushed it. Okay, and the thing about him was that everything I told him to do, he just went out and did. The biggest thing that prevents a lot of guys with little experience is they are such it's like moving a mountain to try and get them to go take the right kinds of action. So a lot of this has to do with their programming and their mindset as well too. If we get a guy who's in it and just ready to do it, and it almost helps having a certain level of autism where you can just like go out and do it and not care about the end result. Um, and you're not overthinking and you're not stressing, you just go out and do it. It helps to have that. Most people don't have that. Most people are thinking really far into the future. Most people are worried what other people are going to think of them. And so as a result, or what they're going to think of themselves or what happens if they fail. And because that programming has been in them for so long, it takes a while to get out of it. Okay. But these were two guys that were able to overcome that programming. The first guy had it a little bit worse than the second guy, even though the second guy was older. And then they were able to be successful. Now, there are other guys that I have coached, even in their 40s and even in their 50s, who have much less experience with women than you would think. Yes, I have coached virgins at that age, and I have coached men who have never had a girlfriend. Okay. They've never been in a serious relationship in their life, in their 40s and in their 50s. And yes, there is programming that we have to undo, but I find that guys who are older, you know, what do they got to lose, right? They try it out. If it works, it doesn't work, great. But at least they tried. And that's one thing that I really want to impress upon you guys is if you are doing this, the thing that hurts the most in life are regrets. If you regret not trying, if you regret not doing the thing that you wanted to do, that is far worse than trying and failing because at least you can look back on yourself and know that you did what you could to be successful. There's plenty of things that I tried and failed at. I don't regret them at all, but I regret a lot of the things that I could have done, that I had a chance to do, that I didn't. Okay. What holds inexperienced guys back? So let's talk about this real quick. I find one of the biggest issues is they don't know where to begin. Where do you meet women? What do you say and do once you meet them? Right? Sometimes they will do the right things for a little bit, then they will stop when the results don't come in. Okay. So we're going to go over a few examples about where to meet women, what to do once you get there. Um, but beginning this can be quite the challenge, right? If you've never done this before and no one's giving you a handbook, like the first time you go to something, you're going to feel really awkward and you just feel like kind of a loser going like, what am I going to do? Going there trying to meet women? Ugh, like you're judging yourself constantly through it. So because they don't know where to go, they don't have like if there was a step-by-step guide that they could just go out, like go here, do that, do this, a lot of them would do it, right? But nobody has that book, and a lot of people are telling them different things. Okay, so sometimes they will do the right things for a little bit. Sometimes maybe they will download a dating app and put their pictures up there and swipe for a little bit, and they don't get any matches. They get frustrated and they quit. Or maybe they go out for a little bit. They approach a few women. The approaches don't go so well. They get frustrated and then they quit. Or maybe they even get on a date. They finally go out with a woman and the woman's like not what they're looking for. They go on a few of those dates where they're not excited and then they quit. Or maybe they go out with a woman who they're actually into, and she ghosts them or it doesn't work out and they're so hurt by it that they stop. I've seen all of these happen from working with men for the last 8 years. Okay. All of them I've seen, and all of these are signs that guys just completely stop. Okay. So a key here is consistency, right? If you start and quit, and then it takes you forever to get back on that horse again, the likelihood of you being successful is astronomically lower than a guy who wakes up the next day, dusts himself off, says, that was awkward, that was weird, or that sucked, and goes at it again. Okay. And I find that that's one of the biggest things that holds inexperienced guys back because they try and then they fail and they rather than saying, hey, you know what, I'm not going to give up, I'm just going to keep at it, they quit for a really long time. Like I'll have guys who, maybe they'll date one woman for a little bit and then it takes them a year, to get back in the game. Okay. It shouldn't take you that long. Right. Um, if you've never been successful at something, how can you expect to be confident in it? That's a big one, right? They have a lot of social anxiety, a lot of fear. So this is the mindset of an inexperienced guy. And I find that this is the biggest thing. Okay. It's their mindset. And with a weak mindset, that typically means that you're going to start and you're going to stop. Like you're not going to do it again. Okay. So confidence comes from demonstrated performance. And so a lot of men know that confidence is one of the big and most important factors when it comes to attracting women. And because they feel like they don't have it, they feel like there's even no point in them starting. Why would I start if I don't have the thing that most women are looking for? Right? And the only way to get it is to get experience. But I have no experience. So how can I do it? So it's like a catch-22 kind of situation. This is what you do. You model what has worked for other men in your position. The two guys that I just told you, Otis, Braun, and there's Anakin, and there's Brent, and there's a bunch of other guys who I've coached that, started out with nothing, no experience, zip, zilch, nada, and they ended with incredible abundance with women, or they ended with a girlfriend, or in some cases, they ended up with their future wife, right? So you model exactly what these guys do, and you just go out there and you do it. It's proven before. You don't have to do everything to know that something is going to work. Now, it's important to model yourself after someone who actually shares the same characteristics as you. If you're a 4'11" Indian man, and you think doing the same things as a 6'3" jacked white dude who's rich is going to get you the women, you are absolutely wrong. Okay, there are plenty of things that overlap, but if you just do what he does, I guarantee you're not going to be successful. You have to do other things, right? So I'm going to talk about what the fundamental things are to do, but for each person, there's going to be a little bit of a difference, okay? There's going to be a change of expectations. Maybe there's a change in effort. If you're a 6 foot tall, jacked white dude and you've never been with a woman, but you're super good looking, yeah, sure. All you have to do is put your pictures on a dating app, and I'm sure you'll get some people swiping on you that will want to that'll want to sleep with you pretty quick. Other guys, most average guys, probably not going to happen. Okay, so you need to do other things to get there. Maximizing your dating profile. We're going to go over that all that stuff right now. Okay, the first thing that we're going to talk about is experience is relative as well too. So this is another thing that I'll mention quickly before we start getting into where to go and what to say. So what might be experienced for some people is inexperienced for others. So a lot of times I notice that guys get really self-conscious about their inexperience, but just know that there are a lot of women out there who, excuse me, there are a lot of women out there who are also inexperienced. Okay, so I had a client who had slept with over 80 women and he thought that he was inexperienced. All right, so like experience is relative. There are some people who think they're inexperienced and they're just not. They're just like they're so self-critical that they believe that they're falling behind. Right? I was one of these guys. I thought that I was inexperienced even after I had been going out for a couple years and had slept with, more than like 40 women. I thought I was behind the ball. Okay. There are plenty of women who haven't had a lot of partners either, and there's no reason to bring it up during the dating process except in select circumstances. So the reason why I'm wording this is because there are some guys who might still be watching who are not experienced, but it's also not a reason to bring it up, right? I know a lot of guys or women or female dating coaches encourage men to be honest and declare it outright and say, "Hey, listen, I just want you to know that I have never had a girlfriend. I'm a virgin, but I'm really excited to see you." Don't ever say that shit ever. Okay, if you want to know what to say, this is what you say. Okay, instead of admitting that you've never had a girlfriend or you've never been laid, or that you've only been with like two women in your entire life, right, and one of them was a prostitute, right? Don't admit that. Instead, just say nothing. She doesn't need to know that shit. Okay, that's your business, not hers. So instead of saying that, I would, and if she does ask you, so sometimes they'll ask you, well, like, what was your last relationship like? Like, how was that? Then you just say, well, I'll be honest, it happened a while ago, and I'm just kind of trying to focus on the future right now, right? You don't need to go into it, right? And if she impresses upon you that, hey, you need to declare something about this, then that's probably not somebody you want to get with anyway. Okay, because if she makes that much of a big deal about it, clearly there's something wrong with her past. Okay, that's why people do that stuff, right? Women insisting on you rocking it and just being yourself is bad advice. Women don't want a guy who's inexperienced. So, like, if you're about to do the deed with somebody, right? Like you're walking home, like I would actually recommend that you do bring it up at that time because you're worried that you're not going to be able to do a good job. And an easy way to take the pressure off yourself is just say, "Hey, just so you know, like I'm really excited to go back here with you, but it's been a while for me." And she'll probably be thankful that you said that, but it's also going to let her know that she's not going to get she's not going to get the pounding of a lifetime. This isn't going to be something that she announces to her friends about how great. Actually, it might be. You never know. Sometimes, even if it's awkward or uncomfortable, just the fact that she really likes you or you guys connected really well, for some women that can be really good. Okay. But you don't want her judging you on your performance. And so you take the pressure off by saying it's been a while. Not that you've never done it, but it's been a while. Cool. And by the way, you don't always have to lie and keep this up forever. If you eventually do get into a relationship, you let her know that, hey, listen, when I said it's been a while, I had actually, I was actually like very inexperienced, when I met you. I was just worried that, you would want to leave me or you would judge me because that had happened to me in the past, right? She will be a little annoyed, but she will eventually understand. and that will be important. That will be important. Okay. You're not going to be living a lie for the rest of your life. Trust me. Like I've coached so many guys on this. Okay. I know some people are probably nervous right now. Trust me, this works. I've coached so many guys on this. Okay. Know exactly where to start meeting women. Many inexperienced guys think the only way to meet women are through dating apps and nightclubs. Okay. So this is one of the biggest things. Where do I meet the women? That's the first thing. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Here's where to go. Right? Dating apps and nightclubs are typically the two things that most men think they have to go to. You do not have to go to nightclubs. And yes, you can meet women outside of dating apps by not going to nightclubs. Okay, there are plenty of activities to do, and I think nightclubs are actually terrible. Most men don't get matches with women that they actually like. Okay, there are much better. They're much better suited to environments they can get more comfortable in. Okay, so you're not going to get comfortable in a nightclub if you have no experience with women. You are not going to get tons of matches on dating apps by putting your average pictures up there. You need to have a better profile. I recommend that optimizing your profile. For one, you want to optimize your photos. You want to choose the right kinds of photos for a dating profile. So I help guys with that all the time. Typically, the lighting is something that matters. You guys can't see, but I have this like giant light setup, even though the color of this room looks terrible. So the lighting matters a lot. Different poses. Guys frequently who are inexperienced, I find that they have almost no photos of themselves. So you got to take more photos. Now, if you don't want to do the whole dating app thing, totally fine. But learning where to meet women in real life is going to be really important. Okay. So environments that work for inexperienced guys are typically environments that they already have some sort of competency in. Okay. Now, some inexperienced guys literally have no interests or activities or hobbies that women do. And if that's the case, you want to find something that's adjacent to your hobby. For instance, if you really like superheroes and comic books and all of that stuff, there's some women who are into it, but you're gonna find a lot more women if you go to anime. Anime is chicks love anime, dude. Anime's great. Okay. So you might want to pivot a little bit to something else. Now, I have a full list of places to go and an updated video for where to meet women in 2025. So there's a link in the description. It is a free school group that you can join. And I have a whole list. If you just go into the classroom and you go into where to meet women, yeah, I have a video that's updated for 2025. So you just go there, you look at the video, and it will give you some recommendations of places that you can go to meet women starting right now. Okay, you can go to like there's this new app called Time Left. You can start meeting people there. There are tons of activities, but typically the best thing is something that I would probably have to talk to you about. Um, and I need to get to know you a little bit first. But if you want some quick answers or you want some ideas, that is a great place to start. Okay, it's totally free. You can join the school group. You go in there, you watch the videos, and I would start writing places down that you think you'd like to do. This is typically going to be a place that you might enjoy, even if there were no women there. Okay, so finding places like that is absolutely crucial, and then also finding social events too in addition to those activities is really important. If you just go to social events and you don't do activities with other people, then what starts to happen is, the social events aren't as fun, okay? Because they work together. You want to do things during the week with other people, um, because for humans to just socialize it is kind of a weird thing. People meet and they form friendships typically from doing things together, right? So an example of this might be like I have a workout class that I do every single morning. Okay, it's a small group training at my gym here in Austin, and I've met a lot of friends through there because we've done stuff together every single morning for weeks. And when that happens, I know their name. We talk in the sauna for a little bit afterwards, and then I can text them and I can meet up with them later. I can invite them to a party. I can invite them to a dinner. I can do anything, right? So if you're doing that consistently, then what tends to happen is that when you go out and you are social, it's that much easier. It's that much more comfortable. You come across as your best self, and that's a much better way of meeting women. Now, to some of you, this sounds exhausting. That's a whole process that if you get down, your life will actually be really good. It doesn't really take up that much time of your day. It's only like maybe two things out of the week, honestly. If you know how to do it right. But it's a little bit difficult to describe unless you get specific things that I'm talking about, which you can find those specific things in the school group, or like I said, you can talk to me directly. Okay. So learn exactly what to say. Now, let's say you're going to the right areas. So I gave you some quick ideas of places to go, right? Um, learn exactly what to say. So can you walk up to a woman and introduce yourself? Right? So know the way to introduce yourself and talk to a woman that you are legitimately interested in. Have a go-to framework if your mind goes blank that works in most situations. So, um, again, if you go to my free school group, which there's a link to down at the bottom, it's called my free community. You just join that. I have a list of questions that you can use anytime you are in a conversation. I'll just go over a few of them right now, right? The first question I usually ask when I meet somebody, let's say I walk up and I just say, "Hey, how's it going? My name's Lloyd." I was actually just over there hanging out with a few of my buddies, and I'm about to go home, but you looked really cool, so I wanted to say hi and introduce myself. Hi, how's it going? Oh, cool. Nice to meet you. Are you from the area or do you live in the city? Nice. Yeah, I actually just moved here too. So you see how that's like a normal conversation. Okay. It starts off in this small talk, easygoing, normal conversation where you're just being a normal, cool dude. All right. Now, a couple things that I did that I don't normally talk about that much is I gave a false time constraint, not a false time constraint. I give a time constraint. That's a real time constraint. I would say I was wanted to say hi before I'm walking to my car, before I walk to my car. Okay. So I wanted to say hi before I walk to my car. So I'm letting her know that I'm going to leave soon. So she knows that this conversation is not going to last forever. People typically relax when they do that. The second thing that I did was I asked her a question that's easy for her to answer, right? It's easy, normal question. Believe it or not, women like small talk. They like small talk because small talk allows them to relax and be like, okay, this guy is a normal, well adjusted human being. Do you know the types of people that can't do small talk? Homeless people. And by the way, most murderers and crazy people, they can't do small talk. They can't act normal. It's only the ones that you read about in the news, like Ted Bundy, that acted totally normal, but uh, ended up killing people. Those are in the minority. Most people who can't have small talk are people who are crazy and actually a danger to women. So it is a pretty good. It's not the best filter, but it is a filter. Okay. So I typically ask them where they're from. I typically ask them, what are they up to today? Who they're here with. I usually ask them their name, right? And then you can even ask them like, what do they like to do for fun, or what do they do for work, or that sort of stuff, if you want to, right? I find the least important piece of information out of that is typically what they do for work, or well, maybe not so. Probably the name. The name is the least important. Um, you can always get it at the end. Okay, so if you want to continue an interaction with somebody and your mind goes blank, knowing a few of those questions, and there's more, by the way, will allow you to just have an easy conversation framework to go through. Now you're wondering, hey, how do I do flirting and all that stuff on top of that? Okay, there's also information about that in the school group, but in general, if you have the framework for having a normal conversation, that gets you to relax. Once you're relaxed, you can start being funny. You can start teasing her. You can start saying things like, "Oh," like if she says that she's from, like I don't know, she says she's from Mississippi. I'll say something like, "Mississippi, huh? You don't look like you're from Mississippi. Tell me where you're really from." Really? No way. I would never would have guessed you're from Mississippi. Like you just get teasing her a little bit, right? So you can start having fun with that. But it starts from a basic framework of small talk. Okay. Learning exactly what to say. So now we know where to go. We learn exactly what to say. The next thing is learning how to escalate. Typically, men who are inexperienced with women, they don't know how to physically escalate with them, right? So if you know the steps, typically the steps are this. You start with the hands. Okay, you start with the hands, you can go to the shoulder, then you go to the waist, and then you can actually kiss them. If you touched a woman's waist or you put your arm around her waist, she's typically ready to be kissed. Okay, but you can't immediately go in there. The way it usually starts is it usually starts not actually even before the hands. Is well, sometimes you'll do a handshake or a hug or something like that, but if you're just talking. It typically starts from the space between you guys. Like if she's, sitting kind of far apart from you and then you come closer to her, does she stay or did she back away? Or if she comes towards you after you've backed away, like you back away a little bit and she does this, that means she's into you. Okay. So that's the first step of physical escalation. Is she comfortable with you being in her space? Does she want to be in your space? Cool. So if you want the full list of physical escalation and how to do it, that's also something that's in my free group. I actually don't know if it's in the free part yet. Let me check on that. But I do have several lessons on that in my coaching program. But I should have a couple lessons for free in the free school group as well too. Okay. So stay consistent. The biggest reason men fail is because they try or go down the wrong path for too long, get frustrated, and quit. Okay. If they feel like they are doing this all by themselves, it makes it more likely they will quit. Right. So as men become more isolated and left to their own devices, the amount of inexperienced men increases. Okay. So we're seeing a drastic rise in the amount of men who have no experience with women. Some of them call themselves incels, which I think is such a like it's such a tragedy to myself. I know that these guys can be successful. All of them can be successful if they just put their mind to it. The thing about being a guy is that it's both a gift and a curse. Who are the richest people in the world? Men. Who are the poorest people in the world? Men by a fucking landslide. Almost all, like 90% of homeless people you see, women. There's some women that are starving, but most of them are men. It's hard being a guy, but the benefit is that if you do the right things, you can change your circumstance. You can get better. And as men, we do have more time to be successful and have children. We have more time than women do. So at whatever age you are, you absolutely can be successful. Even if you've tried and maybe you didn't have a whole lot of help and direction, and so you did a lot of the wrong things for a long time and you got frustrated and you quit, it doesn't mean that you can't be successful now. I've seen so many guys go down the wrong path in so many things because of the way life was, because just the circumstance. Hell, I've spent time doing a shit ton of stuff that, in my opinion, wasn't a good use of my time. I spent 5 years going out to bars and nightclubs. Well, maybe less nightclubs, but going out to bars and talking to women there. There was plenty of other ways that I could meet women besides that. And I did it later, but I think too long I spent doing that, right? I would much have preferred if I had tried other ways as well and become more well rounded. Okay. Um, I did in the end, but I think I spent way too much time doing that. And so then I got a jaded opinion of women because all the women I met at bars were bar girls and not bar girls, but they were just women that, were going out and getting drunk a lot. So, you know, when you do that enough, like it's understandable to be frustrated, but stay consistent. You can be successful at this, right? I've seen so many guys come back from that, right? So the next steps now. I've told you a lot about what the challenges are as an experienced guy. I've given you the steps to start doing it, and I've given you some specific things that you can start doing to implement on that right now. Now, there's two people that are typically watching this right now. If you're number one, you like the information and are just about to go to another YouTube video later, and maybe you'll execute. Okay. Or number two, you are tired of just watching videos and not getting results and are ready to make a change. So you're either the person that liked the information, that's cool information, I'm gonna go watch something else, or you're number two and you're like, I'm tired of watching videos, I'm ready to make a change right now. Okay. If your answer was number one, dude, thanks for coming. Really appreciate the view. If you can give me a like, if you can, give me some feedback on what would have made this more helpful for you, let me know. Let me know. Hopefully, I'll see you again in the next training. Okay, you can find additional free resources in the school group. You can find a wingman there. I have a lot of people in the group. So check out my free school group, right? But if your answer was number two, and you don't need just more free tips and resources, you need something that's customized for you, then consider working with a professional like myself to really get this issues to really to really get these issues handled. Okay, most of the changes that I see don't come from guys who just watch videos. They come from guys who take action, the right kinds of action. And yes, I do my best to try and give the best information I can, but I don't know you. I don't know your specific situation. And for me to do that, for me to help you, we really got to talk and we got to put you through our plan. This is not for guys who are just want a few quick things and then they get the results instantly. Okay. Those are called prostitutes. Those are called, maybe you go to Colombia for a little bit, right? Um, if you are ready to actually make a commitment, meet a real girl here who's potentially going to be a life partner for you, or you want abundance, or you really just want to grow yourself and become a man who actually is desirable to women, if you really want that in your life, then yeah, working with somebody who knows what they're talking about. There's so many guys out there that are giving bad advice. This is exactly the thing to do. So if you are that person, then click the link in the description below and fill out the application to schedule a free call with me or a member of my team. Okay. So we're looking at this all the time. We're looking for guys who are, really ready to make that commitment. And even if you're just like on the fence, you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll think about it. Schedule a call with one of my team. It's totally free. We'll see if we're a good fit for you. And yeah, your first meeting, I guarantee you, is going to be something where people actually look at you and tell you the things that no one has told you in your entire life why you are not successful. One of the biggest things when I first worked with a coach, and by the way, he was not a great coach. Um, but he looked at me and he told me some things about myself that, like, you know, no one had ever told me. And I think that alone, well, that was probably the biggest benefit of the whole coaching. But, um, you know, that alone, I think, is worth it for a lot of people because, when you've been fed lies your entire life, it can be really gratifying. A lot of people just want you to be happy and, and but it's difficult to be happy when no one's real with you and you're trying to improve yourself. So I know how that feels. Cool. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much. If you have any feedback for me, put it in the comment section below. Otherwise, I will see you all later.